Maybe you already have X-T4, so if you have any questions, but we're going to really cover some of the features and sometimes the features with comparison from the X-T3 and H1. Also, I'd like to let you know that as of this morning, we released a Fujifilm X webcam software, so it allows you to use some of our cameras as a webcam. We do have a listing which cameras. So right now, the cameras that are capable of tethering, that's like X-T2, X-T3, X-T4, H1, or GFXs, they'll be using the tethering mode to use as a web camera. So if you use Zoom, Skype, Google Meetings, any of those, you can use your X series camera as a web camera. And the other cameras, they'll be more able to connect probably sometime this summer. So there'll be additional more coming out. Just keep an eye on our website, fujifilm-x.com. We have all the information there to supply you guys for what's new and current. So for X-T4, that's our new features compared to our X-3 and our other cameras. Camera was designed so be for really all audience, from beginners, amateurs, to professionals using both on stills and video. Really good features that it's packed into camera that people have been asking, that it's very similar as X-T3, but again, with additional new features, tools that allow you to use for stills and video. Camera price is $1,700 for the body, silver and black finish. That has been released a couple of weeks ago. What we'll be releasing pretty soon, and I think it's going to be early next week, starting next week, is the lens bundles. We're going to offer two different lens bundles, 18 to 55 and the 16 to 80. Besides the difference range, the 16 to 80 is one of our new lenses. It is weather resistant and also has optical image stabilization in the lens itself. So the way that our stabilization works with the body, and also if it has it on the lens, then conjunctly will work together, still give you the 6.5, but it will share what's the strengths of each other. The processor will do about 10,000 actuations per second, just to determine what is the best for tilt X and Y axis. So the improvements that we've done, difference from X-T3 and X-T4. And if you don't know, the X-T3, it's just still going to be around. It's just X-T4 is just a sibling from our X series cameras to be around in conjunction with our family of X cameras. Difference is in-body stabilization for the X-T series. We had it for the H series, and of course we have it for the GFX 100 series. So that's new mechanical system. Focal plane shutter, new shutter, new battery capacity that people have been asking. Another thing they've been asking, a new very angle touchscreen for you bloggers. Well, otherwise, camera is very similar. Buttons, controls, everything else. The only thing we've done different is we had a dedicated AF on button. And again, that could be also be customized to a function button to anything else, but it's pretty nice and large for your thumb to actually use back focus. On the command wheel where your ISOs and your shutter, ISOs and your drive, we added HDR into the drive. What we've done is remove the double exposure and replace the HDR. We still have the double exposure. Actually, now we go up to 9 frames for multiple exposures. It just, you can program in that into any of your function buttons, or you can actually set it and go directly through your menu buttons. Eyepiece been improved, has a sort of quick locks on each side of the cup, so you can press and release, so it won't actually fall out by accident by throwing your bag and pulling it out or anything like that. LCD screen. So now that's probably one of the big features is we actually have a flippy screen, allows you to view yourself, pull back, also to flip back as a protective cover. So that's another nice feature. And also, I think another change we've done is where it used to be the light meters, where your ISO or your shutter, is we added movie and still switches. So that has been big request for photographers who shoot documentaries, AP press, newspaper, because a lot of times when they're shooting at night or low light, just one switch back and forth, it go from stills to movie or video. Otherwise, everything else very similar, just moved around some of the buttons so they would be easy located or not hit by easily by pressing with your thumb. That's including your Q button. So it's very flush. So by using your camera, you're not accidentally hitting the button and getting that display when you don't need it. Up front, I think we pretty much left everything alone. The buttons, everything is the same. I think the only thing you might see difference is it is a little bit enhanced of a grip compared to the X-T3. So it does come out a little bit more. So if you're using the 18 to say 135 lens, or the 16 to 80 lens, or the 16 to 55 to 8, it's one of the lenses that doesn't have optical stabilization. Combination with this camera, it's really paired really nice using that combination. Otherwise, they're very similar. Sometimes I have to look at both cameras just to see the logo or the model, just to see which one's which, because they haven't really changed the looks or style or size. Upper deck, they're going to be the same. You have same controls for your diopter. There is a little bit difference in your compartments, left and right. So compared to a door, we have these rubber covers that close and cover your points up for your mic. It is the 3.5 mic. You do have your port for your remote. So that could be a remote controller, 2.5, also remote controller for if you use Automos, or if you want to use remote control to your gimbal. So a lot of the gimbals, including the Mozy, they actually have the firmware updates on their controllers, so you can plug in and control your camera from the gimbal. And then the bottom, you have your micro HDMI, so you can output 422 out, 10-bit internal and external, and then you have USB-C. So USB-C is used for several things. So when you get the camera, it does come with a USB-C cable, and that is USB-C to C, and it comes with a USB-C charger cable that's about 15 watts. So you could plug in the cable and charge your battery and the camera. A couple of the key points is we have 6.5 stop stabilization. The new battery, it's called NP-W235. Practically, you get double the capacity for shooting, both for stills or action. 600 shots with the body battery in the body, or 1,700 shots with the grip, because the grip will hold 2 batteries. Improvement on the LCD and more million dots on the LCD, so it's going to be brighter outdoors, more accurate. You had a new film simulation, internal bleach bypass, and I will show you some samples there. So in-body stabilization, it is a little bit different from our H1. This one's more a magnetic compressed spring control, so it's very quiet, very dampened, very fast, so it gets us up to 6.5 stops. It's actually 30% smaller than our H1 and 20% lighter, very quiet. So here's a chart of comparison to what lenses that works. Pretty much most of the lenses you're going to get 6.5 stops compared to the H1. Here's a quick sample, a tight shot on this newspaper print using a prime lens. I think it was the 5612, showing you at 1/25 handheld all the way to a quarter, very legible. Now we got it to 1 second to 2 seconds. And I think 2 seconds is very legible handhold with the prime lens, especially a 5612 wide open. What's also new from the X-T3 that is we have a new shutter box. The shutter box is twice of the life, so 300,000 shutter activations. It's actually a lot quieter when during operation, and it's up to now 15 frames per second mechanical compared to 11 frames. So very good also for action, sporting, anything when you have to capture quite a few frames per second without going into electronic shutter. This is just showing a quick video on what the mechanical sounds. And that's going to vary on everybody's bandwidth, including my bandwidth. I'm not sure you can able to see it or not or hear it. So the battery, it sells about $70. It's a new battery that's not interchangeable with anybody else's battery. So it's a higher capacity, 2200 milliwatts or milliamps of a battery. So you can get about 600 frames economy mode and 1700 grips. 1700 frames with the optional grip. So with the grip, it allows you to hold 2 of the batteries. The battery grip sells for about $330. It will hold 2 batteries. Since the body does not have a 3.5 headphone jack, there is a jack on the grip. But when you do buy the camera, it does come with a USB-C adapter that has USB-C one end and 3.5 on the other end, so you could put your headphone jack or headphones and monitor your sound through your camera or through the mics, external mics. So nice thing is you could take the same charger that comes with the camera and the same USB-C camera or USB-C cable, and you could charge all 3 batteries through the USB-C port. It does take a little bit longer, I think 330 minutes, but it will be able to charge all 3 batteries if you just want to travel with 1 cable. The other option is having a dual charger that we do offer for $70. The dual charger, of course, holds 2 batteries. The LCD will show you 2 different status of what the condition of the charge of each battery, and you will use the same USB-C cable that comes with the camera and the same charger to plug in into your charger to charge on the 2 batteries. So I think if you happen to have more than 2 batteries, I think I will recommend having this dual charger to travel with or have it at home. It's very compact, so it doesn't take much room in your bag. Just showing a model that's silver instead of black finish, very elegant. Improvement also in your EV. So instead of -3 like an X-T3, this is -6 EV. So in very low light, it does a very phenomenal job tracking on people's eyes and face. So if you shoot events like weddings, shooting the reception, especially when you're shooting the first dance, the lights are very dim. The camera will do a very good job tracking their faces, keeping everything sharp. So a little bit of comparisons. I think the difference is just 65, 68 grams difference in weight. Since the design of ergonomics on the camera and the X-T4 with the grip, I really don't feel the difference and the difference on the weight itself, especially when we do have a little bit larger of a battery. Just comparison on X-T3 and X-T4 on your LCD, because the LCD, like I was mentioning earlier, has a couple more million dots, so it's brighter. And covering some of the new features, I was saying earlier, it goes -6 EV for face detection, autofocus, very minimal lag rate, so it's great fast, and especially if you're doing fast motion events, automotive racing, things like that. It's a very responsive camera. 15 shots on the mechanical, and HDR does a great job to do HDR, and you do have the control of how much strength of HDR you want, from 200 to 800%. So very clean. It doesn't look like overcooked HDR, very pleasant. I'm going to show you a video how our face detection works. So this is face detection both under stills and video. This is using eye and face detection. Keeping a little track. He's looking away, backing up. And that's one of the big improvements we've done. And you can have your subject quite a few feet away and eye detection still locks into their eye. And now we're going to show you with white tracking. So this is using your single point. This single point allows you to, especially on a wide mode lens, you can actually track your subject. Even if your subject goes out of the frame, as soon as they come back in the frame, it locks into their face. So very snappy to focus. Some of the features we added that X-T3 does not have, you do have some of the control for white balance. Some of my favorite features, I would say, the Q menu settings that now you can customize the Q menu for stills and Q menu separately for movie or video. Another thing I think for landscape photographers who will like this feature is the safe self-timer option. On previous models, if you have the self-timer and as soon as you power the camera off, you turn the camera on, you have to turn on your self-timer again because it really resets. With this feature, you can actually tell the camera, I want my self-timer on to stay on, even if I power off the camera or if I doing my battery exchange in the body. So we'll keep the timer off or on. Another feature we added from our medium format, we have a battery age menu. So after, say, 500 to 1,000 charges, this little indicator will show you where status is. So when it's on the very last icon, it's kind of giving you a heads up, especially if you're going to be traveling or you're going to do an event, that you should have a new battery backup just in case this battery doesn't keep its fullest charge. So I think that's a great function for the consumers and also for the professionals. So just a quick reference showing focus tracking or focus stacking. The camera will select your front point, second point. Really depends on how large your SD card is. You could do up to 999 images and be able to put these images together and depends on what post-process software you use to compile these together. So the ones that we've been talking about on the stills features on video, very similar to our X-T3. It will do 4K at 30 and 60, 424, 398. The only thing we've done differently on this one, we added the next level of slow motion. So the slow motion, instead of 120 frames per second, goes 240. Very clean. It doesn't look like you're really have any jags or any shutters or movement. So it's very clean output of it. One thing we did add to this camera is our new Interna bleach bypass. What bleach bypass is, and if you ever photograph weddings or anything, subjects back in the 70s and 80s, if you told your lab to skip the bleach tank, what it did is when you skip your bleach, it actually will contain its additional silver halides. So when it gets processed, you'll have additional silver content that will kind of give you more of a monochromatic look. So very similar to what it's doing, that process of the lab days back in the 70s, 80s. So if any of you have seen the movie 300, it has more of a monochromatic look with very subtle colors. That's the same look. And I think if you're trying to get that look, especially on video, including your stills, without going any process with plugins, you can actually able to produce it right out of the camera. Let's see what else. We added a new, anybody uses video, we actually created additional codec or compressed file for video. So there's usually video for 265, 264. Now we got H264 more compressed, or if you're doing just uploads for MP4 or anything for YouTube. So you have a smaller file, doesn't have to carry that much storage. And the other feature we added to the camera is your backup. So you can back up video. So if you're shooting video in slot 1, you can actually tell slot 2 to back up your video. Before, it was just backing up your stills. You only could dedicate one card for video on the previous models. But on this camera, you can actually do backups for videos. I know talking to some people, they probably never thought of backing up their video. And now having this feature, now they're really thinking of using it, especially when you're doing jobs and you just to have extra insurance that your at least one of the cards have been saved with video before, if you have a corruption in one of your SD cards. Talking about SD cards, highly recommend UHS-2. So the camera does allow you to use UHS-2 cards. So it is backwards compatible to UHS-1. UHS-2, if you're doing anything high speed, 15 frames up to 30 frames per second, I will recommend at least 285 bits per second. Either go up to 300. And if you're doing video, I'll recommend a V60, so you could do 4K 60 at that capacity. And then on video, this is strictly on video, not on stills. You have two different tool settings to enhance your stabilization. One is a digital image stabilization with 10% crop. Just gives you a next level of like using a gimbal. And then we have a boost mode. And this is basically just for handheld without panning. This is kind of giving you a mimic of if you were shooting on a tripod, a very still, no motion look. Just in case you might be in a location and you don't have a tripod or you have no room for a tripod. This really does a really good job on those 3 different modes. Show you a comparison. I'm going to play this video. And again, it's going to vary on everybody's bandwidth at home. So the first one is showing with IBIS off, and then the second will be showing you with on. And then we're going to do side-by-side 2 comparisons. And again, I apologize, could be my bandwidth or, everybody's server bandwidth. It could vary, get different looks on your computer. Let's see. So this one's going to be boost mode. Again, it's going to show you side-by-side comparison with the final on both. So first one with the boost off. And this is really using, like, if you're going to be giving you a comparison, if you didn't have a tripod, this is giving that motion that it's very still, very no motionness of your stills or your video. So our new film simulations, this is our Interna that we've been having on our X-T3s, actually also on X-Pro 3s, X-T30s. It is a film that is very wide dynamic range. Skin tones are very subtle. It's one of our films that was in our motion pictures. If you ever saw the movie Lord of the Ring, all 3 movies, all trilogy was shot with this film. So it has really great dynamic range, both your highlights and shadows, and just very cinematic look. This one is your Turn Bleach Bypass. Kind of gives you more contrast, more shadows with less detail, sort of a kind of resolves less color. I'm going to show you the difference going back. This is your standard Interna. This is your Bleach Bypass. So again, Bleach Bypass, a little bit more shadows. Let's kick up a little more details on your highlights if you look back and forth, but it's kind of gives you more of a monochromatic look. So it is a channel, film channel, depends on the certain subjects or content you're trying to achieve. That is the last page. I want to go over some of the answers. I want to thank you for joining us on this demo on X-T4. And I'm going to leave from my sharing and find out, anybody have any questions on the camera?
Hey, Louis, thanks. I just wanted to check in. So if anybody had any questions, make sure and say them in chat. We could also potentially, if you wanted to ask the question live, if you hit the little raise hand feature, you'll shoot to the top of the list over here, and we'll see that, and I can unmute you temporarily so you can ask your question, and we can turn that back off, and then Louis or Victor can answer that. So if you have any questions about the X-T4 or even anything Fujifilm in general, there's some really cool changes in the X-T4. I'm personally going to be getting that camera, especially with the, I was already looking to upgrade for some of the new video features. I've had an X-T2 for a few years. And that flip out screen plus the new 4K features, I really look forward to getting to use that. So
yeah, I'm not using this camera. I was tending to do more video. I don't know, it's not really because of the screen, but just because of the simpler controls. I've done quite a bit of video with H1, the X-T3 and the X-T2. Just to let you know that X-T3, I think last year got, a hybrid of the year camera, because it gives you a true performance both in stills and video. And that's what the challenge with a lot of competitors is. They can either do good stills, good video, but combining both, they don't. Last year, NEB, the camera for, I think, got the hybrid camera of the year for NEB. That's the broadcast show that was in Vegas. Unfortunately, we didn't have it this year, but the X-T30 got a hybrid of the camera for under $1,000. So
Yeah.
this year there was no NEB, but it was a virtual NEB. So they actually gave the award to the X-T4 for the true hybrid camera.
Oh, wow.
And that's competing with everybody else. And this is a broadcast and video convention that lasts all week. I mean, they're setting up the trade show almost a month or 2 months ahead. So to get that award, I mean, we're pretty honored to have that. And really, our heritage, you know, we started back, I would say 85 years, almost 90 years with motion picture film for the movies.
Mm-hmm.
And close to 80 years, we started cinema lenses with broadcast lenses. So we've always been in studios. So we've always been in the field of motion pictures and things like that. And this is just giving us a little bit back into that sector, because our motion pictures film, of course, really that kind of disappeared. Everybody's gone digital.
Yeah.
So we do have cine lenses for this camera. And of course, since it's mirrorless, you can attach any cine lenses you can, but we do make some incredible cine lenses that come from our Fujifilm optics division. Compared to the price, you know, they're just, I say 1/16 of the price compared to our bigger sister lenses.
Compared to some of the big cine systems out there for sure. Yeah, and I've always loved Fujifilm still quality. I'm more of a stills photographer myself, but one of the big exciting things is how much Fujifilm has invested in the video nowadays. One of the few cameras that can do 4K 60. That was one thing that I wanted to upgrade for, especially high resolution at that faster frame rate. I think is really cool.
And not many cameras will give you 10-bit internal. Most of them will,
that too.
And this will
do. We did have a couple questions coming up here too. Richard Howe asked, is anyone making an L bracket for the X-T4 yet? I know that there is a battery grip for it. Are they also making, is Fuji making just one of the smaller grips for it as well?
We not, because we never made one for the H1 because of the bigger grip, and I think we have not announced. I think I know, usually Really Rush Stuff does one, and Kirk, I know who was right off the bat who made one was Small Rig. They made one right away.
Yep, Small Rig makes some great
The reason
brackets.
is they're different from X-T3 or any model. The mount for your tripod's pulled back closer to your LCD to be in the center, so there is a difference. So you can use the existing.
Use the same
The
one.
one I use is, I don't know if you heard of a company called Acrotech. I use their Universal. They're based here in Pomona, Southern California.
Okay.
So they have CNC machines they've been making for a lot of companies, and they also make stuff for medical, aerospace. The reason they make stuff for cameras, the guy who designed for other people, he couldn't find the perfect ball head. So to me, his ball head is one of the better ones. So I use their Universal one, so I can use all of my camera bodies. Because if I tried put a grip, L grip on all, I don't know, we got 20 bodies, including the GFX and everything. That's a lot of grips. And the Universal allows you to put quickly is your plate, and this is one of the plates, and then just their Universal grip.
Okay.
And it comes to the grip. So it makes it very low profile. Again, their name is Acrotech. It just, every time we come out with a new lens or camera, they happen to make the plate right away before the camera comes out. But again, Really Rush Stuff will do it too, and I know Kirk, but I know Small Rig for the price. People have been happy with that, but
ProMaster's been making some really good plates too. So I would say also, Rich and everybody watching, check in with us at Action Camera. We'll keep an eye out for something like that coming out too. We have a Universal one too. I'll have to check out those ones you're mentioning.
It just has to be pulled in the back.
It's kind of shorter, so it won't affect the battery door.
Chris, I saw a hand raise from somebody, but I didn't catch the name. So if whoever did the hand raise, if you could pop in again, we'll get your question on here.
Yeah, I see a Jay Mitch. I think he also asked in text here, but let's just go ahead and unmute you. Go ahead, Jay.
I guess that's me.
Go ahead.
Okay. Well, I typed one in as well. I use the 100-400 quite often with the 1.4 extender 90% of the time. Sometimes shooting slower objects like horses, and sometimes faster ones like birds in flight. And I'm wondering which method of image stabilization with this camera would you recommend?
Well, so the stabilization for stills would be in-body stabilization. And since the 100-400 does have optical stabilization, they will work in conjunction together.
Oh,
The same setup you do with the 100-400, I will, when I'm up in Washington, I'm shooting the Eagles with that same setup. Over a week ago, they had the Thunderbirds fly over, and they happened to fly over my backyard, and because they changed their course, flight path. I had the 100-400 with the 2X, and they happened to be right behind my backyard. And I wish I just had the 50 to 140 because that's how close they were.
Mm.
But it did a great job, and you can actually see the pilots in the cockpit. And
Wow,
so
that's cool.
it did lock in pretty quick with that combination.
I believe that Fuji doesn't agree with this, but a lot of people say that you shouldn't use the stabilization and the lens when you're shooting really fast, like 2,000, 4,000, so forth. Do you have any opinions on that and or the in-body?
I mean, I have not heard that, and I will use my stabilization on the H1 with the 200-2.0, and I'm shooting sometimes 500,000 of a shutter or 5,000 of a shutter, and I'm tracking cars, Indy cars, and in Formula Ones at doing 180, 200 miles per hour, and never had a problem.
Great, thank you.
So I've never heard of that before. What you just mentioned, that's the first. But I never seen an issue with that.
Cool. Thanks, Louis. Yeah, I think you just, anytime you're handheld, I would typically have that turned on, right?
Yes, yeah.
All right, let's see what else. We also had, so Albert Nazareth said, I assume the kit lens is specific to the APS-C sensor.
So we make about 36 lenses, and yeah, they're to work to get the full edge to edge of that sensor. You know, if you use any other lenses, you know, they use adapters. You're trying to achieve as best as possible. The beauty about mirrorless, you're much closer to your sensor. Our sensor, from the back of the lens mount to the sensor, it's only like 17 mils, I think. Sony's 19.8. The closer you get, the better edge quality you're going to get and quicker performance. So that's something that they always look. And to them, it's always important because it's very similar to what they've done with broadcast, with the PL mounts and stuff like that, with cinema and stuff like that. So they're very aware of that. But when you do adapter, now you're pulling the lens a little bit further away from your sensor. Shooting wide open, you may get some softness in corners, but it depends on your subject. Maybe it won't make a difference. But,
all right, any other questions anybody had, or anybody wanted to raise your hand and talk to Louis and Victor?
and Victor, do you know if they're already be shipping lens kits next week, or what's your?
Yeah, we're still on track to ship the X-T4s the 1st of June. So I haven't heard any changes to that. So if you haven't got your order in, you know, definitely get it in as soon as possible so you can get on the list and get yours as quickly as possible.
Yes, definitely. Hopefully we'll have ours coming in here pretty quick too at the store. So hopefully we'll have a demo soon too. So if you want to see one, you can come in and physically take a look at it, call us and just check in with us. Like I said, we're here at the store now. So, but definitely if you want that pre-order, we can take those pre-orders now. So. Richard, I think we had some come in. The bodies were going to be starting to come in pretty soon for some of the pre-orders. So, but I don't think I've seen one come through quite yet.
Fujifilm has tried very hard to make sure we're able to ship a good amount of bodies, especially the situation we're in right now. So I think they have done a pretty good job to get the bodies. And it's been a very popular camera. I remember when I was visiting dealers in January, some of the people behind the counter says the people are wanting to place a deposit for this camera that didn't exist. So we didn't announce it till end of February at WPPI, but they knew something was coming, but nothing from us. I mean, it was just Fuji rumors. But It's a lot of people who were waiting for these features. They really, I think we hit the right spot for those folks. And
Cool.
so, or if you do street photography, shooting primes, you're just going to get that extra hand stabilization, very low shutter, especially if you shoot a very low light. I think that's going to be
Yeah, I'm excited to play with that more. Most of the lenses I own are primes, and I love street photography as well as portraits and travel too. I took my X-T2 to Taiwan last year, and that was a perfect kit for that. So I'd love to be able to shoot in lower light situations with less shutter speed if needed.
Yeah, and X-T4 will give you that.
Yeah, for sure. I saw that Betty, your video started to come on. Did you have a question there? If you want to hit raise hand or just say something in chat. If not, that's fine. I just wanted to check. Okay. And if there's no other questions, then if you guys didn't have anything else, I guess we'll go ahead and we can just kind of wrap it up. I'm just going to let everybody know we did record this. So watch the Action Camera YouTube site. I'm just going to upload it on there as a public video so you can watch it as many times as you want and see the specs and everything. And Betty did have a question. Checking on battery compatibility. Sounds like old X-T2 batteries will not work.
Correct. These are much larger batteries, so it's a bigger capacity battery. So yes, they're not going to work. These are totally new batteries.
Right. Yeah.
With the new battery, you're going to have longer runs. So because it's almost double the capacity of shooting. So
yeah, that's going to be really nice. I like
and
the
they're really almost priced the same, the battery. So price-wise, not much difference.
Yeah,
like any camera.
That in-camera charging, I think, is actually really valuable too. I've been on trips traveling or camping, and I do it with my X-T2, but with USB-C, I think it works a lot better.
Yeah.
I have one of those battery packs, and when I go camping for 3 days a week, stuff like that, I never have to plug it in. I bring a couple batteries, I'm good to go.
Yeah, there's one of the batteries I'll use.
Yeah.
The other one's really good is the, I think, what was the other battery? That has the PDQ USB, so it allows you to operate the camera video up to over 9 to 10 hours.
Wow, is that one of the Anker, A-N-K?
Anker, yes, the Anker 2600, and they have 2 USB ports and then 1 USB-C. If you plug that USB-C, you could charge the battery or run video, 4K video for 9, 10 hours.
Yeah, I really like the idea that you can actually run
you could use a sticker lighter. If you're on a road trip, you can plug your camera and charge it that way. But the nice thing about those Anker batteries, it will power your tablet, your phones, everything else.
Yeah, I'll even plug into my laptop I'm running on here is USB-C, so you can even run those. Yeah, it's really handy nowadays. It keeps things, like you said, lighter, and honestly, those Anker battery pack to probably charge the Fuji cameras, even the bigger battery, many times over. So you can easily last the whole trip.
And if you're not familiar with the battery, we do have that on our tech support website under Fujifilm. It will tell you what model and all that. There's other works, but this is the one we tested. So if they need any information, that is on the website.
Yeah, very cool. And then Rich had a question that I could even comment on too, because I've done this a lot, but he said in one review, it was suggested that it was dangerous to charge batteries through the camera.
No, I mean, we've been early adopters to doing that. So there's a lot of protection circuits on that. We never have had that problem. And since we've been doing this for quite a few years, I'm not sure our competitors, they're barely starting doing that. To us, it was very important because people like the size of the camera. They like to travel. A lot of times they don't want to take a wall charger. So that way they can power it. A lot easier, less gear to take to charge. So I've never heard of any issues, not with our systems.
Yeah.
I've been charging USB-C. Sometimes when I travel in events, I'll carry 2 of those Ankers, or it has 6 or 8 ports, and that's how I power everything quickly. So never had
any issues either. I feel like that might come from those really cheap batteries you can sometimes find out there that could expand or overheat.
Yeah, so we have high quality in our batteries. If you use the lesser and you're paying less, it's just there is these seals that kind of go around the core. Sometimes the seals are very less instead of having more. Sometimes you'll notice the battery's lighter, so it doesn't charge as much. But our seals also protect with another film, so you won't have a cross discharge or short out. So very protected, because if something happens with our battery, of course, we'll cover it. But if you're using a third party and something happens to your camera, that is, not going to be covered because it was using a third party battery. I think every manufacturer does that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. The higher quality batteries definitely help. And I've charged all the way back to just not even USB 3 or USB-C. I still have my Fujifilm X100T. And honestly, I hardly ever take the battery out of it because I just plug it into USB when I get home. I have a little battery pack with me when I'm out shooting street photography, and I sit down and eat something and I plug it in my bag and let it charge up while I'm eating. So I have extra batteries, but I don't swap them that much because of that.
Same
So,
here.
Yeah.